One thing we know about Barack Obama after 21 months of relentless campaign coverage is that he's all business. So it's no surprise that he's already into the nitty-gritty, while much of the rest of the country remains awash in the emotion of his election. The president-elect got his first presidential daily briefing today from top intelligence officials. Welcome to your new job, Mr. President. Congratulations. Here's all the scariest stuff you've ever worried we might know. Obama has taken some big steps to staff up his administration already by filling 3 major posts. Politico.com reporting that the campaign's communications director, Robert Gibbs, will be President Obama's White House press secretary. The campaign's chief strategist, David Axelrod, has reportedly accepted the position of senior advisor in the White House. 2 decidedly Obaman choices, right? Well, the rest of the team so far is sort of Clintonian by comparison. Obama named John Podesta, a former Clinton White House chief of staff, to lead his transition team. Tomorrow, Obama and Biden will meet with their economic transition team, filled with one-time Clintonites. Meanwhile, Chicago Congressman Rahm Emanuel, a veteran of the Clinton White House, will be President Obama's chief of staff. Emanuel's strengths are well known, but the Emanuel pick has also caused some confusion among those who thought change wasn't just a break with the Bush administration, but also with the politics of the last 16 years. 16 years of partisan politics, including the Clinton era. Obama, in a statement announcing the hire, said this, quote, "No one I know is better at getting things done than Rahm Emanuel." Well, there are 2 ways to think about the incoming administration staff. Do these Clinton administration picks indicate that Obama wants old hands to accomplish his agenda in Washington? Or do the politics and policies of the 1990s Washington in the 1990s, do those come with these guys too? Now, don't get me wrong, the 8 years of peace and prosperity during the Clinton administration, they were nirvana compared to what we have experienced under George W. Bush's 2 terms. But some of Obama's supporters hoped for something altogether different and better. I think I need a talking down here. Are we looking at Bill Clinton's 3rd term? Let's bring in Steve Benen, who writes for Washington Monthly, to talk me down. Hey, Steve, thanks for joining us.
You bet, Rachel. How you doing?
Good, thanks. With a few old Clinton hands on board already, to what degree does this look like a 3rd Clinton term to you?
Well, it's still early. It might look a little bit like a 3rd Clinton term. But the truth of the matter is that Bill Clinton was the only Democratic president we've had for the last nearly 3 decades. Almost anyone of a certain age or of a certain political background is bound to have had spent some time in the Clinton White House or the Clinton administration in some capacity. And so given that, if Obama is going to be looking for experienced people of a certain age, it's not too much of a surprise to think that he'd be drawing on people who have some background. That said, both Gibbs and Axelrod don't have experience with the Clintons, so there's some hope that there'll be a fairly significant change.
Do I remember from a million years ago you telling me that you were once an intern in the Clinton White House?
I wasn't going to mention that, but yes, even me. 13 years ago, I was an intern at the Clinton White House.
When you were 4 years old, I understand.
I was 22, 23 at the time.
Oh, I understand. You look younger than you are, Steve. All right. If we accept that it takes Washington insiders, people who know the ropes in Washington, to govern effectively from the White House, then should we be scaling back our expectations in terms of how realistic the change message is in the first place? I mean, progressives and actually centrists and even conservatives who supported Obama, is it unrealistic to expect a lot of change because you need people who are experienced in Washington in order to get any agenda actually accomplished?
Well, I feel like there's a difference between a style change and a substantive change. Obama's policy agenda hasn't changed since his election. I think that, in general, everything we've heard from the campaign and the people that have been involved in the transition process have given indications that everything that he promised he is going to continue to fight for. There might be a slight change in style. Rahm Emanuel, for example, is known for being more of a hardball political operator, whereas Obama ran as more of a post-partisan kind of candidate. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be talking about a change in substance. I think the agenda is going to move forward, and there's nothing necessarily that's given any indication that that's going to change.
Well, but we know on some specific stuff that even when you're specifically talking about Rahm Emanuel and Barack Obama as individuals, they do have sort of a different agenda. I mean, remember in his book, The Plan, writing about health care, he said essentially that Democrats should not try to attempt to go after universal health insurance. He said we should settle for, the country should settle for expanding S-chip, for example. Should we expect Emanuel's own agenda, which we know something about, to influence Obama on policy matters where they might have differences, like NAFTA or like universal health care?
Well, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
Emanuel comes from the DLC wing of the party, whereas I think Obama comes from the more progressive wing of the party. And so it's disconcerting that there's something of a difference between them. But having said that, Emanuel worked in the Clinton White House. He understands the role of a White House chief of staff. I think he's there to help execute an agenda, not necessarily to shape the agenda. And I think, in general, Emanuel probably wouldn't have taken the job if he wasn't prepared to act on what Obama promised to deliver. So given that, I think that in general, there's probably not too much to worry about on that front.
You have talked me down 2/3 of the way, and for that I thank you. Steve Benen, writer for the Washington Monthly. Thanks, Steve.
You bet.